The numbers are growing. But let me tell you something about you guys. Do you know that we've got like close to 1 million views, but only 20,000 subscribers? What's going on? Why are you hiding in the closet? Please, guys, can you do the right thing? As you know, we love to bring you guests who are going to give us a bit of history and context as to what's going on now. As you know, us Africans, we come from an oral tradition. So we pass on our stories like this in storytelling and speaking as opposed to books and the way that white people are used to. So we call our elders to come here to break it down to us so that it doesn't have to be so hard for us. And greetings to everybody watching online, the live stream. Please do send your questions. I have my phone on me, so if you've got any questions for the doc, you're most welcome. I've got Dr. Iqbal Survè today, a media mogul, entrepreneur, a medical doctor. You got so many, I'm like, but a great man all the same. Thank you so, so much for agreeing and coming through. And it's such a privilege to have you here.
Siki, it's my privilege, really. It's wonderful to be here, to see amazing work that you're doing. And, you know, as you said, it's oral tradition. And I'm here to contribute. And I've even got a new suit for you.
Thank you, your blue suede suit. Thank you very much. So, you know, when we hear your name or read about it, it's got a lot of gloss and like glamour and wealth and stuff. We actually want to know the how. You know, we know our backgrounds don't come from white capital monopoly backing, so we want to capture that essence.
No, that's great. I mean, you know, like most Black South Africans, I came from humble beginnings. Very proud of that because, in my view, that part of my life taught me a couple of things. They say humility always, you know, coming from humble background makes you even more humble. Mm-hmm. It teaches you humility. I think that's for me the first kind of lesson. The second is that you understand that people struggle, and you know how difficult it is to make a living, and if you have no money, to come out of poverty and to try and achieve things is incredibly hard. But also it taught me that, and I use this word cautiously, you know, ordinary people are beautiful. And I'm not one that buys this nonsense that, you know, wealthy people are necessarily better. I'm like Jose Marti, the Cuban poet, when he says, "I have much empathy with the poor," and I think that resonates with me. That in our country right now, you know, we have so many beautiful people that are poor that are not given the opportunity, and yet it's such an truly amazing place that if people stop being greedy and we stop these big corporates from trying to control everything and open up our society in many different ways, including, of course, in business, but also for professionals, for artists, creatives, and others, we can just become the most amazing country in the world, you know. And this is what frustrates me, is that people don't see the beauty of our people, and they put everyone in boxes, you know, black, white, religion, educated, class, whereas the reality is each segment of society, people are different. You can get good and great people that come from the very poorest areas and creative, and there's you can get very bad people as well, and so with you know, the people that are in power and the wealthy and all of those. So I think I don't see my coming from humble beginnings as an obstacle in my life. Far from it. I think it's the greatest privilege ever given to me, because to be able to experience struggle, to be able to be part of that, to be able to have empathy with others and with the poor, is a gift that really, a lot of people should enjoy and makes you stronger, by the way.
What were those? Tell us the story. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Cape Town.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
you know, my dad was the eldest of 11 brothers and sisters. His father died, and we had a small cafe, a tiny cafe. And we had to feed anywhere between 10 and 20 people, 2 tiny bedrooms. And, but it was, you know, the childhood was about work, either working in the tiny cafe or working in the small yard and filling up garlic and ginger, taking it to the markets, selling the newspapers, which I own today. Every morning getting up, you know, with my mom, and she was in the tiny cafe. I went to the Kenilworth station with the Cape Times. I had to sell 100 Cape Times in the morning. In the afternoon, I had to sell about 100 Argus. And, you know, that was the life. And it was not difficult, actually. You know, people, if I look back at it today, and I will go to the room where 6, 7, 8 people slept in, which was smaller than this studio of yours. I say, it's impossible, you know. In my mind, when I think about it, I think it was a large room. I went back to the place where, you know, I grew up. And if I think of the tiny kitchen, there was this table just like this, only 4 chairs, and no one could really sit there, you know, and there was a stove there. But in my mind, it was much bigger. But when I go back there and I see it, and it's amazing how, when you're growing up and you experience these things, you don't really feel the poverty in a way, even though you don't necessarily eat every night or all of those things, because there were too many people. It was hard, but you don't, if I look back at it, it's more harder, if you know what I mean. But at the time when you're growing up, it's just part of everything. I think everyone just does it. And in a way, you know, it's funny because people say, but how do people accept poverty when it's so wrong? Or how do people accept, for example, our country's going backwards, back to the apartheid days? And it's in a way because you know, people just accept things. It's how it was under apartheid. It's how it is today. People don't question.
What was Cape Town like? Because you say
Cape Town was, you know, apartheid was in full swing when I grew up, and it was segregated in every possible way. You know, different areas for coloureds and small areas for Indians and of course for whites and all of this kind of. So all this full segregation was there. Whether you were segregated from the time you were born right to your grave. You were buried in different graves. You were born, if you were born in hospitals, in different hospitals. The hospitals segregated, the schools were segregated. So I went to coloured schools, primary school, high school. I was one of only a handful of students that was allowed to get into UCT to study medicine, because at that time the university was a white university, and they allowed like about just under 10% of the students to be non-white, even though there were no African students at UCT. It was only coloured, mainly like 90% coloured, and a few sort of Indian background at the time, because UCT was a white institution, and it was promulgated. It was it was in the law, and for us, people like ourselves, you know, they were not white, they were not European. If you wanted to study at UCT, you needed the Minister of Education to give you a special permit to study there. And when you studied UCT, you were always reminded by the professors, the consultants at UCT Medical School, you are lucky to be here, you are privileged to be here. You know, this is a white university. You should actually go to a black university and all of those things. So that was the time, you know, but it was also a time I became very politicized when my family was very conservative. They were just focused on working every day, you know, no politics, you go to jail, all that, you know, crap. But I went to a very political school, coloured school, which was called Livingston High School in Claremont. One of the oldest coloured schools in Cape Town. But it was there at the time when the area, Claremont and Harfield, was coloured. And then they moved everyone out of there to the Cape Flats. And then gave the place to white people, of course. That's how it became white area. What? That all happened, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Yeah. So that was the Group Areas Act. So the government decided one day, all the people living around the mountain, Table Mountain, what we call the Atlantic seaboard side, the city, District 6, Salt River, Woodstock, all the way around the southern suburbs from Mowbray, Observatory, through to, Simonstown. No matter how long you've stayed there, how long you've been there, that area became designated by government a white area. So anyone that was living there was then moved out to the Cape Flats. And if people refused to move, as in many areas, but it's especially so in District 6, they came with bulldozers, pulled down the houses, took your stuff, put it outside, or sometimes put it on a truck. So the Livingston, which was the school I went to, started as a coloured school essentially, with a few whites as well right at the beginning, 75 years ago or something. And so it was. So the school remained there, but now most of the kids came from the Cape Flats to the school itself. It was a very political school. It was where I learned my politics, because I'd never forget, it's in my autobiography, it will hopefully come out soon, is that the thing that changed me completely is I came from a very poor family, but, it was not that poor, I think. I mean, we still had food and there's a bit of this and that. And we went to see a play in the township, which was organized by our German teacher, because it was also the only school, there was not the German school where you learn German, so they taught German. So we went to this play in Guguletu, and that time Guguletu, the township, only had one entrance. That's how the townships were made in Cape Town, and could be also in other parts of the country. And no non-African was allowed into the townships. If you were allowed into the township, you were arrested. So we went, secretly with a kumbi, about 20 young students, and we went to watch this play, which I will never forget, by Zakes Da, which is called We Shall Sing for the Fatherland. And how ironic, because that play was about two activists or guerrillas or something who were talking about when, liberation came, and how they were left out of getting any benefits. And isn't it ironic today, many people that struggled, during the apartheid time have not benefited at all from post-apartheid South Africa. So that play wasn't the play. I was too young to really understand the play fully. What affected me was actually going into Guguletu Township and seeing the poverty, which was like, my God, this is even 10 times worse than us. I mean, that's like really serious. I remember this big drum, and there was fire coming. It was people using it, for warmth, and the play was being done, and it was like not fancy. This was, and I just remember that, and that just changed me. Coming from a conservative family who were apolitical, then coming back, I looked at this thing of apartheid not necessarily as a race thing. I saw it as something which is exploiting people, and it's about poverty. And then, I became very active in the student movement. I was in the leadership of the SRC, and I was part of the Committee of 81. And we then launched in Cape Town the school boycotts, and that had its own dimensions. But that forever changed my perspective, and I became an activist. University started the first, Black Student Society, Black Medical Students. Azaso was part there with Joe Pashla, Aaron, Zoe Kota, lots of the current people that are in government today. We were together in the student movement against the state, obviously part of the underground structures, all of those things. But I was always driven by this sense that, apartheid is more than just about race. Apartheid is a grave injustice in terms of poverty, in terms of taking away people's dignity, but also, in a very tragic way, just destroying people, destroying them.
Killing them.
So killing them. But besides killing them physically, killing their minds, killing them, their creativity, everything that's beautiful about us. And so in a way, that was against all odds, against everyone in my family and extended family were conservative. And I always remember, when I was detained, the security police came to fetch me, and my mother offered them tea. I'll never forget it to this day. My mother claims she never offered them tea, but I remember hearing she offered them tea. But it was a shock to the system.
What were you arrested for?
I was part of the Committee of 81, and we had decided to economically sabotage South Africa by going into the supermarket, thousands of students, packing the trolleys with the goods from the supermarkets and preventing anyone from checking out, at the tills. So in our view, we're supporting the fatties and moanies workers' strike at the time. And then the cops were very angry with us. And then they first raided us at St. Aidan's Church, and I happened to be chairing that meeting. Unfortunately for me, it was the rotational chair, and I was chairing that meeting that day. And then a few weeks later, they came to arrest me. So, but it was okay, It was part of growing up,
Wow, going to jail.
Yeah, I know as a young student, but it was part of growing up. It was not. Many people have been through so much more, and really. It was part of building my character, it was part of making me understand what other people go through, not to that extent, not to the extremes of others. And it shaped who I am today. People say I'm anti-establishment. It's not true. I'm just very pro-South African. And I don't see why, the country, everyone can't benefit from this country.
So then from that youth, how do you move to this business entrepreneur, what?
Well, most people forget I was a doctor for 10 years. So I qualified at UCT medical school. During that time, obviously, I was part of treating gorillas in the underground, part of the whole. It'll be all in my book. All of this is coming out in the book.
Beautiful.
And then part of health activism. It was a difficult time. Being at university in the 80s was difficult because the government, the apartheid government, the security police were very determined to smash us. They killed the Craddock Four, if you remember.
Yeah.
They were brutal in every possible respect. I went to Zimbabwe to do my medical elective, and saw Uhuru, saw freedom there under Mugabe at the time. Loved it. I call it in my book, The Love Affair with Zimbabwe. I came back, I saw what it's possible like in Africa to be free, notwithstanding all the issues people talk about, Zim and those things. I don't buy into all that nonsense, So
please unpack that for our...
Yeah, look, I think that, Zimbabwe and what Mugabe stood for at the beginning was really about black emancipation. Along the way, they made mistakes, things went wrong, but also, let's face it, the Western states really went for Zimbabwe and made it difficult for that country to survive. But we'll come back to that again. So then I came back, I qualified as a doctor at UCT, went and elected to go and do my internship in Port Elizabeth, at Livingston Hospital, also called Livingston, like my school.
Okay, interesting.
And there I became very active in the Hunger Strike Support Committee, Detainees Parents Support Committee. I set up with my comrades there, the Emergency Services Group, NAMDA, and we started doing psychological rehabilitation for victims of torture. and detainees. You know, when people are detained, as brave as people are, when they come out of detention, they're really psychologically affected. And it also affects the families. So we did a lot of that kind of training. It was a group of about 20 of us. I'd helped set up the office in Corsten, and we also went to places like Somerset East, Craddock, all these places, and Dunsany, you know, which was closer to East London. We also trained the communities in first aid, because when the cops came, quite brutally beat them up, shot them with both rubber bullets and live bullets. If they were taken to hospital, they were then arrested in the hospital. So we had to teach the communities to actually see to those to stop them from going to hospital. So it was my best time of my life being in the Eastern Cape. I was there for 18 months. I made an amazing amount of friends. It was hard. We fought. Beginning of 1989, Amnesty International in Paris at the UNESCO, invited myself to come and speak about the torture and all of those things. And myself and Dr. Gordon de Lima, we went across to UNESCO, and I gave a speech. I gave one of the keynote speeches on torture and doctors and health professionals, and the complicity of in particular, the white South African doctor community working with the security police, at the time.
What do you mean?
Well, at the time, they covered up. So if you take people like Steve Biko and them that were tortured and moved around, the doctors used to come and say, no, there was no torture here, they're fine, and all these things. So I gave a speech and also called for the expulsion of the South African Medical Association, which was white, out of the World Medical Association. That was not well received by the South African police when I got back. I remember Nivan mooring me. Nivan was a horrible guy in the Eastern Cape. Oh my God. I regret giving that speech. When I came back at that time, the airport was, what was it, Jan Smuts Airport?
Yes.
They took me off a plane.
What?
And they moved me because, I gave the speech about the UNESCO. And Amnesty was honoring those of us doctors that were involved in this thing. So I came back, and then I continued to work. But things had changed in the Eastern Cape by 1989. The repression was really, it was really bad. And then Govind Mbeki Wamgov came out of prison at Robben Island, and he came to stay in New Brighton, and we built up a great friendship. And then things became a bit hot for me with the police. My cover was blown. It's in my book. I'm not going to give you all the details. And only discovered many years later how my cover was blown. But many years later. But any event, I then had to get out of the Eastern Cape. Yeah. And then we had a party at St. George's Beach. Now, Monwa Biso Gancho, who was a doctor at the time, him and his wife, they were at the medical residence at Livingston, and then I think they went to live in Motherwell. They just bought a house, there. And I remember we had about I don't know, I can't tell you the exact amount of people, so I'm going to be lying because I never counted. But I would say at least a few thousand people on the beach coming to say goodbye.
Oh, what?
I'm not kidding you, but which was the interesting thing, you had St. George's Beach, and you had the sand, and then you had a highway, and all on the highway were Caspers. They were they were coming, and I said, well, that's the best goodbye I could ever get, saying the cops coming to say goodbye to me. I think they wanted to make sure, I had a yellow Beetle, I drove a Beetle, yellow Beetle. And my Beetle used to go in and out of New Brighton Township, Motherwell, all these places, and I think they were very happy to see me and my Beetle go back to Cape Town. So it was Eastern Cape, and then back to Cape Town, and then in Cape Town, again, it'll be my book. I don't want to give the details.
Yeah, we're definitely coming to the launch.
Yeah, so then Then Madiba came out, and some of us were contacted to be part of that team. But that's in the book.
Yeah.
And then 94 came. And 94 came, and I said, okay, this is it. I'm a doctor. I love medicine. I love making people better. It was like my gift. Medicine was my gift. I was a great doctor. You know, people queued to see me. And when I left medicine, for many years afterwards, people say, please, doctor, come back. We want to, you know, it was, I love my patients. I was the first doctor, I think, in South Africa that actually had a patients committee that determined everything, that determined what a practice should look like, how it should operate, that the doctors had to be accountable to the patients committee. You know, but it was a great period of my life. It was just amazing, you know. And I was telling my assistants in the car coming here, just out of interest. One of my patients was a Sangoma.
Okay.
Yeah, a woman called Mildred.
Okay.
And she was my patient until I left, you know, medicine. And she came to me one day, and I said to her the first time she came, I asked her, what is she? She said, I'm a Sangoma, this and that. She was very good. I said, okay, we're going to do a barter. I'm not going to charge you anything for seeing you. You don't charge me as long as you give me my spiritual... and it was interesting. I'm not going to tell you what she said, you know, but it was very interesting. So, yeah, it was...
So you're going to tell me that whole story, but not tell me what you said.
I'm not going to tell you what she said.
Thank you so much, Doc.
But I had a huge respect for her, and it was always great. She used to come, and we used to chat, and, you know, and I believe in this stuff. I believe that, you know, you're part of a broader spirit.
Yeah.
You breathe in the same molecules, you know. We're all one.
Exactly.
This nonsense that we are not. It's complete nonsense, you know. Don't buy into that stuff. So then after that, what happened was that, you know, around about 97, there was this whole thing about empowerment. Madiba was talking about some of us have to go into the world, and then there was an activist grouping set up to look at how can we do empowerment. And what started purely as someone that's very organized, very structured, that can do multiple things at the same time, even today, I ended up actually, you know, heading up this organization. And it was only meant to be for a couple of months. I was really, because, in between all of this, I became, in my book again, on the details of it, but I got a postgraduate degree in sports science because I was a soccer player. And I love soccer. I mean, soccer's been my sport, and I played reasonably well, you know. And then I got an American fellowship in sports medicine as well. So I got to that point. So I was someone with, you know, multiple degrees in medicine and science. And I got to that point at the end of 97 where I could either go and become a professor in the US because I had all these degrees. I was already lecturing already at UCT even at the time, not as a professor, but just part-time. Or I could change my career completely and make a bigger impact on more people. So I had this crazy worldview. I love medicine. I was making people better, but it's very individual, you know. You can't really see two patients at the same time or three unless you're a psychiatrist. But
you have to be clever for that joke.
No, in a way, you know, you can have a group session. Okay. But as a doctor, if someone's got a heart problem, you can't say, okay, all four of you with heart diabetes, heart problems, sit here. I want to fix all of you at the same time. Okay. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, so you're not talking about schizophrenia.
No. I mean, as a doctor. Okay. Then I thought, you know what? I want to really change the world. And as crazy as I was, I want to really make a big difference, impact on poverty, this, that. I want black people to be proud. We can be business people. We can. And I don't know what I was thinking. After 10 years of being a doctor, loving it, a specialist in sports medicine, you know, I said, okay, can I do this? And through these circumstances of empowerment and all of this stuff, and in my book is a lot more details, but then the next thing that happened, there I was. And in 18 months, with very little money, listed this company Sekunjalo investments, really in 18 months, with no salary, no income, nothing. And that's a lesson I always tell people. When you have the most to lose, you make things work. Yeah. You make things work. Because there's no fallback position. And for me, I said, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure it works. Determination. So in 18 months, believe it or not, we were one of the first black companies to be listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in 1999. So I left medicine in October 97. And in May 99, I listed Sekunjalo Investments on the main board of the JSE.
Doesn't that take money though? So where?
No, you see, we started in total with we had this thing that no one could invest more than 20,000 Rand. Okay, not many people had 20,000 Rand.
Listen, you keep laughing. This is what we're dealing with here.
At the time, not many people had 20,000 Rand. And like some people invested, 500 Rand, 1,000. But anyway, so we ended up in total after like months of road shows with 250,000 Rand only. But because of my deal-making ability, I was able to take that and it became worth a few 100 million in 18 months. And that's a skill I have. And so I was the youngest chief executive ever, white or black, of a main board company on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
What do you mean, that's a skill I have? Because we also want to learn that skill.
I'm a doctor, so I understand people. So business is about understanding people and understanding value and understanding the connections and understanding the overlap between people and businesses and all those kind of things. We'll need a whole session on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, hey, we're going to have an entrepreneur.
So that happened, and Sekunjalo was, on the way. It was amazing. And then after that, I went separately out of Sekunjalo, went into oil business, gas in Africa. So I was one of the first to go into Africa. I went into technology investments, invested in companies like Tesla early on before anyone else. I just have a knack for these things, I missed medicine for the first 3-4 years. I missed the people. I missed making them better. So I love seeing people get better. I was a good doctor, I understood people. I understood that 90% of people's problems sit in the head. And you fix that, you fix everything else. And not that you fix it with drugs. No, I never believed in drugs. You fix it by getting people to understand themselves first. If you understand who you are, if you can understand what you want, you can fix anything. And just be authentic to yourself. People talk about being authentic to the world. No, be authentic to yourself. It's okay to be authentic to yourself. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to understand your weaknesses. Not everyone is perfect. Nobody's perfect. So often, my patients used to have high blood pressure. Most doctors, because they're busy, focused on treating the high blood pressure. Oh, your blood pressure's up, you're going to get a stroke. I should say no. I have to ask the question, why have you got high blood pressure? What's going on over here, And most 90% of one of the first doctors who said, well, do yoga, go to aromatherapy or something like that, go and get massage, whatever, get your partner to massage you, man, or whatever it is, and just eat better, exercise. So it was, that's how we started, and then we became very successful. I continued to, invest in employing people to the point where we employ, just under 10,000 people today, 40,000, 50,000 dependents. I continued to do philanthropy and push hard for transformation. All the business I took over, I transformed them. And even to the extent I was so successful, I was the first Afrikaanse Handelsake Instituut van die Jaar. Now, if you don't know Afrikaans, what it means is that is the businessman of the year for the big Afrikaanse community, right? I even gave my speech with I think I said, with power comes responsibility. And I said to the Afrikaners, you must play a role as you did with yourselves during apartheid to empower yourselves after the British put you in the concentration camps, in the 1900s, and you must help our country and its people in the same way to actually truly become free, in terms of economically free, socially free, etc. I think they must regret having given me that award today.
The same ones.
That was in 2007.
Doc, because I know you don't... sorry to cut you off there. It's because I know you don't have much time.
I'm in your hands.
So I wanted to find out, because I know you've got a very busy schedule, and so I wanted you to get to the part of entering the media space, because then that leads us to what's happening now with you and Goolam, and you can perhaps break that, so that we can just... I don't... This is the bad children's corner platform.
Until 2013, I haven't got blue eyes, but if you had to say it, I was the blue-eyed boy. I could do nothing wrong.
Yes.
I'd won more awards than any other, I think, black or white person in this country, right? I was seen as the whiz kid that was just brilliant at everything that he did. I was lauded by everyone, the businessman of the year, this, that. I even got appointed by President Clinton, to his board. We became a World Economic Forum company, the first serious black company out of like 20 African companies, right? I became chairman of that board, of the Global Growth Companies board there. And then in 2013, I say this jokingly, my daughter for this, but I love her to bits. And part of my book is dedicated to her, because she was sitting, in our lounge, and our home is somewhere where you could come and probably the only home in Cape Town where you could see black people that were not savages, but that were creatives, that were teachers, professors, whatever, business people.
An array.
Yeah, an array, and she had lots of her friends there, and they were talking about, why is Cape Town so racist? Why do black people feel uncomfortable? Why is the media so one-sided in presenting the image of black people, And he said, Dad, don't you think you should, create at that time, online, a newspaper or something, or a blog or whatever. And it kind of started there, and it went from there towards, maybe we must, I appointed a consulting firm to advise me on launching a newspaper. I said it was too difficult. Then I went to approach the Irish. So that time, the Independent Media Group, just to go back a bit, around about 1993 or so, Harry Oppenheimer came to Mandela. And he said to Mandela, look, they own Anglo-American, and the Oppenheimers owned what was then called the Argus Group, which was the largest media group in the country, with about 20-odd newspapers. There were two major groupings, in the English side, SAN, which was the Times Media Group, Sunday Times, Business Day, all of those, and then the Argus Group. And you had the Afrikaners with Rapport and Beeld and Burger. So Harry Oppenheimer said to Mandela, look, we own all the mines and all of these things, and we don't want the newspapers falling into the hands of the ANC. And basically forced Mandela's hand to sell the Independent Media Group to the Irish, right? So to Tony O'Reilly and the Irish, on the basis that, it'll be safe in the hands of the Irish because, they're not South Africans.
So white people are so cunning, guys.
So there you have it. So there what happened was that the Independent Media Group was bought by the Irish. So until 2013, there was no black media group of scale in this country. There were attempts to invest into it by Tokyo, by Cyril, by all the various same players, right? With Johnny, but all of them had minority investments. So when I went to Ireland to ask to buy the Cape Times, the Irish laughed at me and said, are you crazy? We're not going to sell the Cape Times to you. Through a host of circumstances, you know me, I'm very determined. I went back a year later with a check to buy the whole business. All 20 newspapers, online sites, everything, communities, the works. the Irish were in trouble globally because of whatever issues. And anyway, Bob's your uncle. I bought the business. Now, I was someone who had sold the Cape Times and the railway station and in the roads, was now owning the Cape Times and Argus and 20 other newspapers, the Star, the Pretoria News, the Mercury, you name it. And then I, firstly, as the word came out that I was buying it, all hell broke loose. The white establishment went for me. My God. I thought, what's going on over here? Why are they so upset with me? I'm just buying a media house. Like, it's another business. Yes, I was going to transform the business, and I wanted to make sure the narrative about black people in particular is evened out, and it showed the beauty of our country in all its various forms. They went for me, boy. Yeah, the system started. I realized for the first time what the system is like. And they just went for me. All the other media controlled by them, meaning the white corporates in South Africa, went for me. And suddenly, from being an absolutely brilliant businessman, internationally applauded, having won international awards, recognitions, really successful, I became a pariah. They just went to destroy me and smear me with lies and went after me non-stop, and it hasn't stopped ever since. So they tried to first break up the group, they tried to take over the group, they tried to sabotage the group. Then, when I tried to bring equality within independent and remove privilege in the organization, when I took over, there were lots of privileged people, and they happened to be mostly white, who were earning much more than the black people doing the same work. I didn't drop the salaries, I tried to bring it all equal. Boy, oh boy, people started attacking me even further. And that changed my life and my family's life forever, to be truth, because then, I had to have security and protection, and the Afrikaner, white right, the Weerstandbeweging guys started saying they're going to kill me, and then whenever there was an article in the newspapers or online, people assumed it's me. Now, I don't have time to read 20 newspapers, right? I hardly have time to read a newspaper per day. But people assume what's in the newspapers is me. And that became the battle. And then it became a battle for the soul of the country. And we were trying, and I appointed mainly black editors, because the demographics of the country has to be, represented in that way. So that's where I got to being a media owner, which I think is the toughest thing that you can ever do in your life, is to be a media owner.
Oh, wow. Like me right now, trying to do that.
It's so tough.
So then, just lastly with the Goolam stuff.
Look.
I don't know if you want to air it out. Or
no, it's very simple. It's very simple. The establishment and the proxies in government today, including those in the ANC and those who rule, they, decided to launch a massive campaign against myself and others. But I'm their number one target, because they feel I've got the media, I've got resources. They cannot buy me. You cannot bribe me. I don't compromise on my principles. I say what I want. I fight for the rights of others. Black people, poor people, ordinary people. I'm not apologetic. I don't live the life of a super wealthy person with, Ferraris and jets and yachts and play golf and all those things. I can't play soccer anymore, but but at the end of the day, they can't shake me. Because, for me, I have firm convictions, firm belief, firm values. And that's who I am. So what's the best way to deal with me is to smear me. And so their smear campaign is one which is well-funded, well-organized, using state funds, using private sector funds, using bots, using trolls. The moment I tweet something, 50 guys would come up, which are bots. Their trolls are there watching it all the time. And their strategy is simple. Divert his attention away from helping black people, helping to transform the country, showing people what alternatives can be. Keep him busy. Keep him busy with the banks, keep him busy with the courts, keep him busy with this. Just keep him busy all the time. This is the guy they say, that's not me, by the way. I may disagree with them. They say he's very smart, he's very resilient, and he's not tempted by all the things that all the other guys are tempted by. Therefore, he's extremely dangerous, right? And he's a guy that people listen to. He's got good ideas. He doesn't talk nonsense. And, he lives a principled life. So take him out. Now, you can't take him out physically. They've tried a few times. But you can take him out, in the public image. But it hasn't worked. Let me tell Mr. Goolam that. You know why, Mr. Goolam? Because I came from Cape Town to Johannesburg. And I'm telling you without exaggeration, from the time I came from Cape Town to Johannesburg, by the time I landed, at least about 10 to 12 people came up to me and said, Doc, can we just shake your hands? We are with you. We know what you're doing. We know what they're trying. When I walked into the hotel, the guys all came up to me. I didn't know them. And they wanted to just take some photos with me, talk to me. It's embarrassing to feel like a celebrity, I must tell you that, because I just feel it's a bit weird. But anyway, I accept it because, in a way, I symbolize the hopes and aspirations of our people. And I'm not going to compromise my principles. I'm not going to compromise my wealth. I've lost billions fighting the system. I'm determined to continue fighting them. And Goolam is just one of them. He's part of a whole coordinated effort. And I don't think we must give him too much attention. He's a mad guy. They're all mad.
I know, right?
And at the end of the day, there's karma in this world. They are going to find out in time. There's karma in this world. And you can fight me, but you can never fight the spirit of the people of this country. They will live long after me.
Thank you so much, Doc. Moya Ulight, Moya Upright. There you have it, guys. I'm sure you're going to come and give us some entrepreneurial workshops.
I should do that for sure.
Yes,
I will. We have to make
really
a plan to do that. I know they're pushing me for time.
So thank you so much to everybody
My God, did the time go so quick?
And everybody for joining on the live stream. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. All the details are on screen. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. I couldn't believe the time went so quick.
I know, it does. It does go
so quick.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely corner into e off. Buza umoya so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.